So today we're going to find out if this is worth buying. Having done no research on chemical paint removal, I'm not going to compare this to anything you can buy on Amazon or at your local Sherwin-Williams. I bought this solely because every time I go into an auto parts store or even a Walmart, this is sitting on the shelf. Advertising doesn't work on everybody, but that's pretty much the only reason I bought this. And I think that's a lot of reasons why a lot of people buy this, because it's there and it's convenient, and you assume, hey, it's probably not that bad because I see it everywhere. So we're not going to go over the ingredients and the different formulas over the years and why the old stuff was better. I'm not going to bother. I have enough useless information in my brain. I'm not going to deep dive into chemical analysis of different paint removers and why this works better than that and so forth. We're going to do a very consumer-based, I bought this, we're going to dump it on the car and see what happens. Car is a 1965. It has its original coat. Somebody resprayed it very early on from what it looks like. And then the third coat, somebody rhino-lined it, probably within the last 10, 15 years. So using nothing but my last little 1-inch chip brush and some plastic containers that used to hold a bunch of nuts and bolts I'd get from the hardware store. We're going to see what happens. So by no means are we going to half-ass any of this. We're just going to see if this is any better or more effective than using the tried and true method of the wire wheel. But even with the assistance of a chemical stripper, you would be sanding the car down to bare metal anyway. So the directions are pretty straightforward. Proper ventilation, wear gloves, etc. This surface has not been cleaned. I'm not prepping a surface for paint removal. You just do it, other than removing your trim and all the other stuff. The only odd thing this does say, which doesn't have to make sense, when you apply this, they say to only apply it in one direction. So we're going to do a spot using the directions in another spot, just kind of doing both ways to see if that really makes a difference. Really, we're just checking the effectiveness of this out of the box, or out of the can. We'll be doing 2 flat spots and 2 vertical spots. Also, it does make a mention to not let it dry out. I prefer this to be metal, but it's 2024 and everything's plastic. So we have a can of this stuff, we have a brush, we have a container, and we have an old car. So let's open it up. Open slowly to relieve any pressure. Off to a great start. Can't get it open. It's got the special push down and twist cap, and you can put your whole weight on it and turn it, and all you feel is something stripped out. Yeah, not working. Denting the can. Let's get some tools. There we go. All right, let's pour some in. Not sure what the consistency would be, but it's goopy. So, do one spot. Say somewhat liberal, thick, in one direction only. And we'll go over here and just kind of work it in like you would probably do without reading the directions. Go down here. They say to go from the bottom up. Okay, you get the idea. So these are the spots, very basic, single stroke, one direction. Tried to go somewhat thick, and these are just kind of haphazard, as you would probably just do, assuming that works better. So we'll give it 10 minutes and we'll see what happens. Alright guys, this is the first flat spot. After we're probably on to about 13-14 minutes now, because I keep screwing up the commentary. So we're about 15 minutes on the first, this is the flat spot following the directions, remarkably. I actually captured that on video. This is the second flat spot where we just kind of use the brush, if you were trying to paint something, to try to kind of push that chemical in best you could. It's just starting to work. But now this is the vertical spot after now about 15 minutes following the directions. And this is the second vertical spot not following the directions. Because this is just a video for fun, and I'm going to wire wheel this whole car as it is, this doesn't matter. We're just going to scrape and see what we can get off after just 15-16 minutes. So that's the flat spot following the directions. This is the flat spot not following the directions. Let's see what happens. Really not much. And again, as you can see, this has not been even cleaned of just the dust that's accumulated on it. So now let's move on to this spot. I'm excited for. That's what you want, and that's what you get. And that was following the directions. So this second spot, not following the directions. Disappointing. So to reiterate, no prep work has been done. This is just as the car found us, almost 60 years old. 2 coats of paint plus Rhino liner on top of that. The directions did say to let it sit for 20 minutes, but it looked like it was drying out pretty quick. That's why I stopped at 10 minutes just to see. So since we have some of this left, let's just use the rest of it on this. I'll do about half on this spot and the other half on this spot, and we'll see how effective it is. And we'll wait 20 minutes this time. Really, you don't even want to press. You want to just let the brush glide. So let's see what that does after 20 minutes. So guys, we're gonna let that roll. We're at about 20-22 minutes here. And as you can see, and it's working way better than I thought it would. I'm actually kind of tipping the scale to being impressed. We're only at about 25 minutes right now. For something you can just buy and just slather on, and looks like it's about to take about 90% of the paint off. We'll do another 20 minutes or so, and then see, we'll scrape it off and see what we got. All right, guys, here we are after 40 minutes. I think it's about time we start scraping. We'll start at the bottom. So most of that's the Rhino liner. That's interesting. All right, so that's pretty interesting. You can see the layer of Rhino liner, that red paint, and then the original paint underneath the red paint. Overall, that's not too bad. Again, considering this is Rhino liner and it's supposed to be some pretty heavy duty stuff, and for not really using that much, just a couple dollops of that stuff, really. Certainly a lot quieter than a wire wheel. I would definitely have to do another pass. It looks like in certain areas they tried to sand off when they were buffing this down to paint it. It looks like they got a little close in certain areas. You can see the witness marks from a wire wheel. So it looks like obviously I'm going to have to do 2 coats, but overall, I will say from reading the reviews on some of the hit and miss projects people have used this for, whether they were following the directions or not, I've got to say I'm pretty impressed. This little can was only 26 bucks. A gallon of it costs about 76. As I've mentioned before, I know you can get online and order all sorts of other fun stuff, but this is always convenient. It's always in my local auto parts stores. So I will actually be buying a gallon of this and using that as the primary source for the paint removal. Now, obviously, I'll be wire wheeling and sanding this all down to bare metal when it comes time for primer and paint anyway. Plus, I have a lot of body work to do. I have some metal work to do, but other than that, it's gonna save me a ton of time because I was dreading this part of the project. I do have a nice little setup here as far as my shop, but I do live in a residential area. I've got neighbors right over there. I've got neighbors behind me. So I try not to, if I'm making noise, I'm making noise. You know, nothing I do is any louder than my lawnmowers, but still, to decide to take off all this paint with a wire wheel and have to suit up and mask up and spend a whole Saturday, Sunday, or whatever day I have off in here with fans blowing everything out, I was not looking forward to that, and I really didn't want to do that. That's why I kind of entertained using this paint remover. That, and of course, the body's quite immobile, so I couldn't even really do this outside. I'd have to do it in here, and it would kick up a huge cloud. I don't have an exhaust fan installed at the peak yet, but this is gonna be a way cleaner way to get all this off. Shouldn't have done that. But there will definitely be a follow-up video, since I will probably need about 2 gallons, I would say, to do the whole car. So while we're here, let's go ahead and just do another coat. I know everybody wants something that'll take it down to bare metal in one shot, but it is what it is. I don't know how this would do against like clear coat, because this doesn't have clear coat on it. But I'm assuming if you're going to do a project like this, you'll have to do 2 coats in certain spots. But honestly, that's not a bad trade-off, since this does it quietly. But so the original color of this car was prairie bronze. Somebody did some type of prep work. Some spots you could tell they probably got down to bare metal and then resprayed. This almost looks like another factory Ford color. I forgot what the red was called, something poly. So let's go ahead and put a second coat on this spot just to see how well it does. So about that much. Okay, anyway, this was the point. I wanted to see how well this would do on the second coat. We'll go from there. We'll give that 20 minutes. Well, guys, I lost track of the time. But this is about 20 minutes, a little more than 20 minutes. We'll give it another 20 minutes and then pretty much wrap up. Well, the camera died. I'm not sure what time, but let's take a look. It's been about 45 minutes. Oh, well, let's see what we got. With a little bit more time, that coat probably would have got a little bit more of this off, and that's likely how I'll do it moving forward. I'll probably let it sit a good hour. For just messing around on the weekend, as I've mentioned, I'm pretty impressed with this stuff. But this would be great for if you have a project with really thin metal and you're a little worried about putting a wire wheel to it. This would definitely help get the majority of your paint off. So I'm pretty sold on it. I'm surprised. I mean, it did what it said it would do, so I guess there's not too much to be surprised about. Well, guys, if you made it this far, thanks for watching. I hope this was informative enough for you to make a decision. I really had no idea how effective that stuff was going to be, so I had no idea how this video was going to turn out, but I definitely, I could not talk today, so there's many different retakes over and over and over again. Is one of those days. Definitely not on my A game, but the fumes aren't helping. But I do have a fan blowing everything out. But other than that, there's definitely going to be multiple parts moving forward using that Rust-Oleum stripper, because as I've already said, I'm going to be using that on this project. So, and see how good it does. And seeing as how in the past I've taken full project cars down to bare metal using nothing but mechanical means, this is definitely a luxury I had done without for quite some time. But until then, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.